And this will be Jennifer Roach Buchanan.
Thank you. I really thought it would be nice to talk about shade gardening, but then I thought I don't really want to talk about shade gardening when the snow is out here. So we decided to look at actual lessons learned and things about gardening on a slope period. And next slide, please. This happens to be the back of the house. Most of the general considerations that need to be made about the slope itself is how big is it? Any vegetation that's there? Are there any waterways that you can discern or see? And what do you have what's the purpose of the garden area? And finally, of course, the climate. The purpose of the garden area is kind of important because then if it's for children, you probably want more grass area for them to play in, as opposed to some other stage or part of your life. This does happen to be a look at the backyard in its lushness at the time. Okay, next slide, please. In looking at what to do, for years we've tried to deal with the slope, and you can see that this is quite a deep slope on the right side. But when you think about it, you try to do nature-based, resilient kinds of things to your landscape, so you don't have to do it over and over and over again, so that it's sustainable. So I went to the Virginia Cooperative Extension, and they had a wonderful pamphlet called Reducing Erosion and Runoff. And I call this Lessons Learned because we've tried many things over time. Next slide, please. And here you can see this last spring, how it looked. Next slide, please. But here's what happened in June. I mean, in June, July, when we had all the rain, and all of a sudden, everything that was so lush had disappeared. And it's like, well, what in the world is going on? And we had put wonderful stones. We had them all reinforced, etc., with everything that we thought we needed. Next slide, please. So you look back at what are some of the issues other than what's obvious. So you've got to look at the pitch of the yard, the downspouts. Are there soggy bog-like areas? And I have this blue area because that's construction, and we've been in the house for a long time, but every year it goes green and loses its grassy area. And we discovered when we went to Merrifield, it was construction that was impacted, that they had turned over. And of course, soil erosion. Next slide, please. So what does it say? It says that in the booklet, there are basically two ways to solve a drainage or erosion problem: capture it and redirect it. And those are some of the ways used there. Soil amendments, we thought we'd done all that. Rain gardens, terraces, dry walls, and then redirect it. Swales, French drains, catch basins, and downspouts. Next slide, please. These are some of the things that are used in those areas, and I think most of us are fairly familiar with them, but how to use them and where to put them. I think we've had all kinds of downspouts everywhere. We had stones going down the hill and so forth. Next slide, please. So the second way is to protect the eroded land. So we use sometimes plant vegetation, which is like another whole thing to use. It depends on what your yard is. Is it shady? Is it bright and sunshiny? And we use gravel or mulch for footpath erosion. That's for light. And then for heavy, you build terraces and check dams. I didn't even know what that was. Next, please. Here you can see the huge slope in the front, and what we ended up having to do there, and I'm hoping that it works this year without having further erosion, and that is we had to build an actual planting area and used stones and made a terrace. And on the right, this is on the other side, we've got about a 45-degree slope here. But looking at the right, we ended up doing one of the things that they said, and that was putting down gravel and putting that on the ledge to try to sop up or keep the water from actually eroding that area. Next slope, please. Next picture, please. But we still had to work with this. So what to do with this? Next slide, please. And as you can see, we ended up putting French drains in front of the area that we had made out embedded, and it's because it wasn't working. We ended up putting drain boxes or catch basins, as they're called, at the end of the steps. And we ended up putting an actual terrace there between there and a French drain under that. Next slide, please. Instead of making the steps, those stones the way they were, we overlapped the stones and then put an actual wall there. Hopefully that's gonna help us with the erosion that was occurring there. Next slide, please. We also actually put the drains off of the we actually buried those, and we moved the drain from the patio and then drained the bottom of the stairs before we got to the patio, also with the French drain. Next slide, please. We don't know if this is going to work. I have to tell you, we're trying, and the whole thing is for you, me, as homeowners, to be resilient and to continue to keep trying to reduce the erosion and runoff. Hopefully this will work this year, and we might be able to have a whole year of having a decent backyard. We're trying everything that we've been taught in the reducing erosion and runoff pamphlet and other things that we've looked at. We also want to stay nature-based and looking at making sure that we keep the ecology balanced. Thank you.
My goodness. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Do we have any questions? I don't know.
Yep, I do. This is Susan. Jennifer, great. I really enjoyed that. I noticed one question. I noticed that it looked like your downspout was buried, that it went underground. Do you have gutter guards?
Yes,
okay.
We ended up having to put gutter guards on because discovered that if you don't have gutter guards, you have to use Roto-Rooter to get them out, and it's a hard problem with the French drains. So we did put gutter guards on all of the gutters in order to prevent that problem. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so, because I have a sunk drain like that. And I changed gutters because the gutter guards I had weren't working. So I went I went to a bigger gutter, and my downspout just clogged completely.
That's exactly what happened to us as well. And we ended up having to have a Roto-Rooter to get it out to where it empties. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that
you for that.